Canine Detection Collaborative, a detection dog training trio with Stacy Barnett.
Hi.
Robin Grubel.
Hey there.
And Crystal Wing.
What's up?
With humor and a big dose of theory, our trio talks practical training advice and features interviews with top trainers and scientists.
It's Canine Detection Collaborative.
Welcome back to Canine Detection Collaborative, and I am Crystal Wing, and I'm here with Stacy Barnett.
Hello.
And Robin Grubel.
Hello there.
And I'm actually in Robin Grubel's laundry room right now. So I'm up here in Iowa for a visit, and we just had a fantastic seminar. It was a Inspire 2022 Lady Decoy and Helper Summit. And so we had lots of fantastic handlers and trainers and soon-to-be decoys and now decoys because they've had their first bites. And it was a pretty fantastic, inspirational experience. And then while we're having fun up here on the farm, Stacy is out doing amazing things. What did you do, Miss Stacy?
I had an incredible weekend. I did a NW3 with my little, very sensitive mini Aussie named Y, and he's 11 years old. He's been doing nose work since 2014, and he earned his NW3 Elite, which was like such a huge, huge accomplishment for him. So really, really big weekend. Something I didn't really even know was going to be possible in the realm of possibility for him. So I'm just completely thrilled. Which, by the way, guys, if you want to see a picture of Crystal in the laundry room, Robin's laundry room, go to our Facebook page. There's a post there of Crystal recording a podcast in the laundry room. Just
Podcasting is very glamorous.
It's very glamorous.
Very glamorous.
It's very glamorous.
Oh, yeah.
Very, very.
Yeah. This is farm life.
It was super cool. I loved it.
Hey, we do what we do because we enjoy talking to each other. And, you know, if I have to sit on a basket of laundry, that's what I will do.
As long as it's clean laundry.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's it right there.
Yep.
So we were kind of thinking about and talking about topics because that's what we do right before we talk to you, and all the planning that goes into it, right? And I really just want to hear all the stories about why. Like, I'm so excited because typically after we have trials and you know, whether they're successful or not, it doesn't matter. We're really excited about sharing our stories, and we didn't get to do that yet because we were up here, you know, sweating and wearing, you know, bite suits and sleeves, and we had all people from all over the place, and so we haven't had a chance to kind of touch base. And then we kind of realized there was a theme that went through both the bitey stuff and Stacy's experience, and it's about advocating for your dog. And so that's really the heart of what we want to talk about tonight. So I want to hear the stories, Stacy. Tell.
Oh,
Story
gosh,
times.
I'm so proud of him. So a little bit about why. Why is I got him like a long time ago. I got him like 10 years ago, right? So he's 11 years old. And I wanted a little herding breed dog. Well, you know, I wanted to do agility with him. Turns out he's got seizures. Anyway, he's basically kind of a genetic mess, but he's also extremely environmentally sensitive. But fast forward, Judd was starting to do nose work, and I'm like, you know, why don't you try it, right? So he tried it, and he really enjoyed it at home. But I have to say that he was not actually able to search outside of the inside of the house. So he could search the inside of the house, but getting him to search like even 3 boxes in the front yard was just kind of like, it was really, really difficult. So it's been a long, long journey, and it's full of ups and downs. And honestly, after Judd died, Y just basically kind of stopped searching for a while. And I think we went like, gosh, it was like 2 years where he was just like, nope, not interested. Every so often I would take him out. Like, do you want to search today? Because your sisters are searching. And he goes, nope, I'm good. I'm fine. And within this past year, he's just all of a sudden, he's like, yeah, I'd like to try that. And his whole persona has been really happy lately. So we started trying it again. And I started to work really hard on reinforcement for him. And I found out that he will do anything in the world for a hot dog. So little by little this year, he went, hot dogs are amazing, right?
Hot dogs are amazing. Yes.
They're really amazing. So little by little this year, he went from basically he had gotten an NW2 back in 2019. He went all the way through NW3 and just finished his elite. So it's just a really, really huge thing for him, because let me tell you, I had tears. Like, it was crazy. It was really crazy. I'm just so incredibly proud of him. Such a good boy. I mean, we're talking 6 searches. He has to get through 6 searches and stay happy. He stayed happy the whole time. He was happy. He was confident. It was awesome. It was awesome.
And what I loved about your teamwork when I got to see up here in Iowa was he was happy, and you knew how to set him up in a situation that he would have success. And even when he had a really hard one that we didn't think was going to be so hard in the garage, you just were in there and you made it so much fun. And it was wonderful to see your teamwork. And I think that's a huge part of that, where to advocate for your dog, even if it's a little bit harder than what we expected, you knew how to bring the party and to really just, he was just beaming. It was so great seeing you two together. I loved it so much. That was such a special treat to be able to see you two work.
You guys, like, you've seen me work the girls, right? And this is, when we're working dogs like Y is actually, that type of dog is very common and knows work. There's a lot of dogs out there like him that are just kind of like, they've got to put on the big brave boy pants just to get into the search area. And there's a lot more dogs like him than there are like the girls. So for me as a instructor, honestly, I love the fact that I have him there, because he really has kept me kind of grounded with that. Here I'm searching with my really, confident, drivey girls. And then on the other end of the spectrum, I've got Y, who's just basically saying, wow, a rooster crowed while I was trying to search that vehicle mom. That was really scary. So kind of dealing with both sides of it is pretty, that's kind of tough sometimes, but it really is special when you just see him light up because he found the hide. And I mean, you can see how long I reward him. Like, sometimes I reward him longer than I do however long he searched.
And what I got was a sense that that Y really could trust that you weren't going to put him into situations that he couldn't handle. That's what I felt, because he worked so hard in that garage.
Yeah, he did.
And knowing the stories and everything that I've seen in the videos, he kept persevering because he had that, I do feel like it was that kind of level of trust that he knew he could do it because of the relationship you built. And that was really special to watch that.
Oh, well, I do allow him to opt out. He doesn't have to search. If he doesn't want to search, he doesn't have to search. If he says, no, I don't want to do this today, or this is too scary, or this is over my head, or I just can't do this today, I say, okay, right? You can go back in the van. That's fine. We'll try it again another time. And he goes, okay, that sounds good. So I don't think he ever never feels forced. It's just, he has a choice. He has a choice. He really has a choice. And I think it's really critical for a dog like him to have a choice to say no, because that's really empowering. And if he feels that he has that opportunity, as long as I'm careful about what type of situations I put him in, if he feels like he has a choice, it's very freeing for him. And I think it really helps to build his own confidence, honestly. I've gone through a learning journey just working with him, but he's a super little dude. I'm just so proud of him.
And it's interesting for me to watch, dogs who are that sensitive, because as in search and rescue, we have a lot of people who come into this work with the dog that they already have at home.
Yeah.
And, some of them turn into really, really good search and rescue dogs and good detection dogs. Some of them are great starter dogs because they teach you a lot, right?
Yeah.
And I encourage people that when they have a dog like that, don't just stop searching with them, because oftentimes they will teach you much more than that easy dog. And right. And so they really help you. They work on your training skills. So I call them starter dogs, kind of like a starter home. You learn all sorts of stuff, and then you don't learn, you're still going to make mistakes. People are like, oh, but when I get the puppy, I'm not going to make any mistakes. I'm like, oh yeah. You're just going to make different ones. And it's okay. Right.
Yeah.
So you said starter dog. Yukon is my ninth dog. So is the ninth dog the starter dog?
Yeah, well, but he's your first dog for search work, right? I mean, so
Yeah.
you had got him for something else, which he opted out of.
Yeah,
and
he did.
and that's actually something that's really important, is to, like Stacy, give why the chance to opt out. And it's really interesting when I have a dog that opted out after she got her FEMA level cadaver dog certification. She pretty much looked at me and said, "I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore." Right. And
Yep.
that's hard. Right.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh my, I've spent how much time, how much money, how much, all of this stuff, and getting a dog to this level. And all of a sudden they're like, yeah, I'm done. Thanks.
Yeah. And that starter dog, we call him a starter dog, but honestly, that dog could come along at any point in your career.
They can.
With your dogs, right? I mean, your first dog could be like the holy grail dog, right? And then you get the second dog, and your second dog is like, I'm sensitive. So it's not necessarily even your first dog, but every dog you have is going to help you to grow as a handler. And some of the dogs are just there to make you grow a little bit more than some of the others,
And so very thankful for that too.
Yeah.
So very thankful.
Sometimes, and that's the hard part, is because we can be thankful, but then we can be like, oh, this is really hard. It's you get into kind of that very conflicted feeling where sometimes it's very easy to feel negative, right? It's very easy to feel sad, or to feel frustrated, or to feel like you're
embarrassed.
Everybody else on your like, if it's your search and rescue, like maybe everybody else in your team is going a little faster, or if you're taking classes with nose work, maybe the rest of your class is ready for their NW2 and your dog isn't, right? It's so easy to take that personally and to kind of build that into your identity versus saying, hey, this dog's journey is just a little bit of there's a different pace to it.
And I think for advocating for your dog, it's good to sometimes be able to just embrace the suck. That was something that my best friend sent me one day. And she said, I can't make the situation better for you, but I'm here to embrace the suck with you. Yeah. And that was exactly what I needed to hear. And it just seemed like one of those things where instead of being embarrassed or instead of being frustrated, it was okay to just embrace the suck and say, this is what's going on. Let's get a training plan together and not internalize this. So if anyone else needs to hear that as well, find somebody out there just to embrace the suck. You don't have to have advice. You don't have to have answers to everything. And sometimes things just suck. And it's okay just to have that support system to be there and go, maybe this dog isn't what you dreamt them to be. And maybe today is not the answer, and we'll find the answer down the road even. I mean, that's how I get into search and rescue, and I love it.
And sometimes that suck is also, I hate to say this, maybe that dog really shouldn't be in that specific role.
Correct.
There's also that, right? Like Yukon. I mean, you started with bite sports, that actually brought you to this really great place.
Yeah, we did agility, we did weight pull, we did frisbee. We tried all the things, which gave me a really well-rounded understanding of how to bring in lots of different sports. And again, I mean, he's a great teacher and I appreciate that. He was a great teacher this weekend, like at a bite sports seminar. Who thought that he'd be able to come out and play tug and be able to teach, decoys how to read a dog?
That's great. That's so great.
And that's one of those things where we get, Ray, who is the English Shepherd, certified her up through FEMA cadaver level stuff, right? At the age of, I just got the notification on my phone yesterday where it was her and I and our picture on the rubble pile post certification, like 8 years ago, right?
Wow.
And she didn't make it to her second certification at the age of 5. I certified her at 3. At the age of 5, she's like, yeah, I'm out. And I spent a long time, she just ended up being a pet. I thought about rehoming her. I did. There's a whole backstory as to why I didn't do that, because I couldn't. And I am the center of her entire existence. And so it took me a really long time to realize that her primary job in life actually was not to be a search and rescue dog. She was my gateway dog into other types of detection because she wanted to work 6 feet from me. She didn't want to go out and hunt stuff all over the place. She really just wanted to be in my bubble. And that was one of the things that was really interesting about this weekend when we were doing the Inspire workshop is Crystal has done such a fabulous job with Checkmate and Yukon that even if they have no other purpose than to help bring up a new round of decoys and helpers for bite sports work, what a noble job.
Yeah.
And they loved it.
Yeah. And, so our ego gets so wrapped up to, oh my gosh, I want to title this dog. I want to do this. I want to do that. And sometimes we forget to ask the dog.
Yeah.
And then it gets into, and, we see this, I see this in search and rescue work. Well, you wash the dog and you get a new one. You wash the dog or you rehome the dog into a profession that it is more well suited for, which is fine. People can do that. This is why I have 2 pet dogs in my house. And I actually, because unfortunately I get a little too attached and it's not right. I mean, and it's okay, but we have to be big enough to be able to say, okay, it's kind of like I had a dog Echo that I realized he needed a new job when we showed up to search and rescue practice and he wouldn't get out of the car. I looked at him and said, okay, I'll take you to herding. Boy, did he love that. Yeah. But I had to let him go do what he wanted to go do.
Yeah. And sometimes when doing that, if you follow them, it actually takes you into a whole new world.
It does.
That's what happened to me. That's how I ended up here. Right. I tried all these other sports with Judd and he was like, I don't like this pressure. We tried nose work and he's like, I'm incredible. And I'm like, wow, you're really incredible. And he was my holy grail dog to just he was an amazing search dog. But we were not very good at the other sports together just because the pressure was just too much for him. So, sometimes it's like, the stars align, and you just end up where you need to go. And it's just, for me, I'm very thankful for it, actually. So it's a little bit of a different perspective, but, very thankful for it. But I think it's also important from a sport perspective, right, is the accomplishment that dog that may be really sensitive, like for instance, why I got his NW3 Elite. I mean, if I look at my girls, they're like NW3 Elite, no big deal. It's, for them, I'm like looking at the higher level titles is like, that's their capstone title. Right. But with Y, like this is like him climbing Mount Everest, and you have to like really kind of embrace that and be like really, really proud of that dog for what they can accomplish versus trying to compare that dog to another dog. Because if I were to compare Y to Brava, I would always be disappointed in Y. And I can't do that because that would be unfair to him. And he gave me 2,000%, right? And had just an incredible achievement. So I'm just as proud of that as I am of her getting her second summit title, right? It's on par. It's like, wow, look at that. And it was within a span of a week. Holy crap, right? It was a great week. But
yeah.
It's truly
just so proud of it.
Meeting the dog. I mean, Crystal and I were training today and we had a heat index of something weirdly outrageous for June in Iowa, like 100 degrees, right? And
I saw that on AccuWeather. I'm like, yeah, I left just in time.
Yeah.
And
really did.
It's, we're setting timers and all sorts of things because the dogs can only handle 2 or 3 minutes of really active stuff outside. And poor little Radish was so excited to see Crystal that she would pretty much wore herself out in the kennel before we even started. And, Crystal did such an amazing job of just looking at her and saying, okay, this is where we're at today. That and her and Bristol and Ducati are going through the teenager years of you're not the boss of me. And, and so,
Yeah.
oh, this is the point where we start not liking them too much. So,
Some dogs go through that longer than others.
yes. And so, but it was just fabulous to see her look at Radish and say, okay, this is what we're doing for this 30-second training that I can, safely get you to do something. And then we'll go to the hose so you can cool off.
Yep.
So I think that those type of moments, and you can't compare one dog to another dog. You can't compare one trainer to another trainer. And, I just, saw something on Facebook of we can't compare ourselves to each other. The biggest thing is, am I better today than I was yesterday? That's the important thing.
I love that.
And we had some really nice discussions over the weekend about advocating for your dog and your training. And I think about a dog and handlers that I've seen with dogs like Y, who come to seminars, right? And they know that maybe something that we have set up is not appropriate for their dog. And as an instructor, you start being able to read that, where the person's like, I don't know. And they don't know how to gracefully say, that's so not going to work.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
Yeah. You have to be able to say, hey, I think, well, you can actually just make an excuse and just go, oh, my dog's kind of tired. I think my dog's kind of done for the day. That's okay to say. As an instructor who gives seminars, and I know both of you are also in the same boat. Part of what we have to do as part of our responsibility is also to read the dog and to say, oh, this isn't going to work for this dog. And then try to give the handler, the team an alternative in a way that handler doesn't feel less, because it's their identity is already so wrapped up with that dog that if they feel like, oh, well, let's just make it easier you have to be very kind about it, because if you're not kind about it, they're just going to feel worse. Right.
Right. And I would rather have a handler in a seminar look at me and go, the way this is currently set up and operating, it's not going to work well for my dog. Yeah. I'd be like, excellent observation. Let's figure out how to make it work for your dog, and let's troubleshoot it together, because you know what? Yep. They're going to run into that exact same problem when they get home. And it's more about teaching and coaching them through the process of, okay, just because everybody else ran it this particular way, I don't know if you guys have this, but when we set up problems and we have a series of people running it one after the other, everybody starts in the same spot.
Yep.
Everybody thinks their dog has to work it the exact same way that the first dog worked it. And when they don't, people get frustrated. Yep. And I'm like, you don't have to start in the same place that everybody else started if you're working on something different than what the dogs before you worked on. It's okay.
I also tell people, I say, you know what? You're here at a seminar, but your dog doesn't have to find all the hides.
No.
That's not what this is about, right? It's not about, because what happens then is that if that hide is just a little bit too difficult for that dog at that moment, you see handlers start to guide the dog to the hide, right? Or start to pressure the dog in ways that makes the dog uncomfortable. And I'm like, guys, it's okay if they don't find all the hides. It's all right to just say, hey, we worked this to the best of our ability.
And we're done.
And maybe we'll make modifications and just be okay with that, right? And that sometimes you just go, you know what? And I've done this actually. This goes back to why. Where I'll take them to a local drop-in, like a local class or whatever. And there have been times where there's, 4 searches set up and I'll do 1, maybe 2. And I'll say to my coach, I'm like, I think he's done for today. And she's like, yeah, I agree. Or he'll find one hide and we're like, I think we should stop right there. And we've done that where he finds one hide and we're out of there. Like he doesn't need to do the rest of the search, because it goes back to I love your quote. I always have that robin on my shoulder, right? Lately, especially. I'm like, I love this quote. Don't train till it's ugly. I need that. We need that on a t-shirt. Can we get that on
We'll
a t-shirt?
put it on a t-shirt. Yeah.
That has to be on I need that t-shirt. I need to wear that
A lot
t-shirt.
of people need that t-shirt, including me.
We all need to wear that t-shirt. Yeah. So, it's don't train till it's ugly. So, but that's what we would do where, I'd take him to class and he'd get one hide. We're like, that was amazing. We're out of here. I'm not always that great with doing that with the girls, but with him, I'm a little bit more cognizant because I know how he can be so negatively impacted if I push the issue with it.
Right.
So I want to kind of, I don't know, some things I got really excited about as you guys were talking, because that's what I do, as you know.
I'm always like, I know Crystal is going to come out with something really, really poignant and incredible. She's sitting there,
stop
she's
it.
writing,
No, stop
and I'm
it.
like,
It's
I'm
nothing
all
like
excited.
that.
I'm all excited. Sorry, I'm building you up.
It's not that good. But when I
It
really
always
came
is.
to the heart of advocating for your dog, what Stacy said, I think, is the heart of it. You have to understand dog body language.
Yeah.
And that's what I really felt this weekend as we did a whole bunch of trying to teach these women how to understand the different drive, the different motivations that the dogs had, and how they were perceiving just through behavior. So describing the behaviors to understand how to develop the dogs, because they had a lot of interest in developing dogs, not just young dogs, but just dogs that weren't even maybe for the sport, like off breeds. There was a bird dog that was there. And when you said about knowing when to be done, the handler trainer came out the first time and it was really hard. We were training outside of a chicken coop of like 70 birds. And,
That poor dog.
she came out and, the dog was like, this is too much, this environment. And she didn't quite have the tools yet to know. And so a lot of the handlers came out in a new place, and instead of keeping it short and keeping it, they wanted to come out and just show where they were when they were at home, and they weren't at home. And you always get a lot of that, but we can do this at home. And so the second session, they got to come out and then show the things they learned after we did like a little talk about predation cycle, the predation motor cycle, and all those things. And then we came back out. Her session, I mean, everybody applauded. It was just this fantastic, very fast flirt pole, hot and heavy and runaway and done, and everybody was cheering. And it was such a wonderful moment because she understood what part to bring out in her dog and then how to just slowly build that in increments and create a training plan. And so I think advocating for your dog really comes down to understand your dog's body language. Don't beg them to work. That's also not going to help you in any situation. They should be the ones pushing you to work. And we have to keep that as that engagement empowerment piece. We have to keep that as our number one. And if they can't do that, it means there's something that we need to either change the environment to help them. We need to change, what's happening. The whole idea of advocating is that we're supporting and promoting something, the interests of the dog, and we need to protect them from injury. We got to protect them from other dogs. We got to protect them from other people. And that's where I thought Nina, the co-teacher, she's amazing, IGP helper and dog trainer in Oklahoma. She brought this Dutch Shepherd, and his name's Neo, and he is so great. He's an agility and a herding dog. And we both are like, this dog needs to be a bite sport dog. He is a wonderful Dutch Shepherd, very powerful, very clear-headed. And I mean, I'm holding his leash. I don't even know the dog. It's somebody else's dog that she's brought. I mean, across the country, it's fantastic. And I misunderstood what she wanted. I brought too much presence. And he said, oh, this is scary. And advocating for the dog became immediately, we went into a training session. I didn't care. We were in front of all of these people at a seminar and we were trying to show one thing. We switched gears immediately, brought the dog back up and had him feeling big and powerful before he went away. And then we came back and we talked about it and we shared, this is what happened. Miscommunication happened, but guess what? We didn't ruin the dog. In fact, we ended up making the dog even more powerful. By the end of the weekend, Neo, dude, I was like, put him in my van. He needs to come home with me. So advocate for your dog, understand the dog body language. That's number one. Learn that first.
Love that.
One of the things that's been really interesting and good for me as a trainer is to, and I don't do bite sports. Nico would love to do bite sports, but I don't do it. And so I'm sitting here watching all of these people working everything from bird dogs to, there was a bloodhound puppy handler there. I think just learning how to read dogs, right?
Yeah.
And the different amounts of pressure, body pressure, voice pressure, all of those sorts of things that decoys have to be very, very aware of, is nothing that we ever actually spend time learning. A lot of trainers do it intuitively, but for those people who are, volunteer professionals or, the search and rescue crowd and the nose work crowd ends up learning about pressure just because of some of the dogs that are in there. You have to understand it, but being very conscious about the fact when you're at a seminar, dude, you're nervous.
Yeah.
Because you're in front of the instructor, you're, everybody else, a group of peers where, your dog rocks it every other time. And then you get in this new location, the dog's like, yeah, no, never seen that before in my life. I'm done. And you wonder why.
Embrace the suck.
Embrace the suck.
That also got me thinking, this learning how to read the dog. We spend so much time with searching, learning how to read the dog in odor or out of odor, but we don't spend a lot of time learning how to read the engagement of the dog. Right. So, and this goes back to kind of like what Crystal was talking about, right? It's that engagement and the dog's reaction to the stimuli, whether that stimuli is, how engaged they are in the searching, as an example, or the stimuli of pressure with the decoy or the helper, or, and how the dog's reacting to that. It's still reading the dog, how the dog is feeling at that moment. And are they all in, right? Or are they only partially in? Because if they're only partially in, you have to be really careful. Any pressure, if they're only partially in, they could go, I'm done.
And that's why UConn was such a great teacher this weekend, because if there was anything a little bit weird, or if he didn't feel right, he would start typewriting. He gave you immediate feedback.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we need as students. And he is a great teacher, because just playing on that tug, as soon as they didn't do it right, he was like, chomp, chomp, chomp. They're like, okay, he didn't like that.
Right.
And they learned to read him very quickly. He's very easy to read.
Yeah.
So finding those dogs is really helpful.
Yeah.
And I think we underestimate the power of just training engagement. I'll be honest. That's what Crystal and I worked on today with my puppies, especially with the two older girls, because they are in the teenage years. They're kind of like, yeah, well, we'd rather go over here and sniff. And, oh, you have a chicken in the garage. Yeah. And I have a chicken in intensive care in the garage, because that's what you do.
Is he still in with the pigeon?
No, Paul the pigeon is out and free at the moment. So,
okay. But before the weekend, Paul was in there, right?
I ended up setting them up in two different cages because Paul was pissed.
Gotcha.
And you don't want to have
still a little sad.
Yeah.
Okay. When Robin's husband comes in and says, "What's up with Paul? She wouldn't even follow me today."
Okay. And I don't know if we've explained Paul. So here's the story behind Paul the pigeon.
I love Paul.
Paul came as part of a hunt test, a seminar that we did last year with Tim Springer. And he left some pigeons, and Paul pretty much spent the winter in my chicken coop, learning that I was not scary. And this summer, spring and summer, has pretty much just spent the entire summer following us around and helping us do chores and racing Joe, my husband, in the mule, all sorts of stuff.
Kawasaki.
It's a Kawasaki mule. Yes. A mule with gas, not a mule with ears. And so we also found out that Paul lays eggs. So Paul is actually Paulina, but we still call her Paul. And so we actually put her in a dog crate with appropriate food, water, and a perch. So she didn't get snacked over the weekend because we had a lot of very fast, pointy-eared dogs here.
Well, Paul is not real quick. I hate to tell you.
No,
she's
she's
just not real situationally aware. She is lacking situational awareness.
Yes.
She lacks it horribly.
So we're trying to figure out what tricks we're going to teach Paul yet this spring. So, or summer.
Let's teach Paul not to fly into the camper that's sitting. Yeah. She tried that. So
yes.
She slammed herself into the screen door.
Yeah. So trying to get, 2 field line Labradors to disengage from a chicken and a pigeon who were hanging out in your garage. We ended up just working on engagement and working. And
don't just say just. It's not just.
It's not
the
just.
Number one most important thing.
Correct. And so
sorry.
It was that's okay. Because we think of it as just engagement, and the whole concept of people rely on a leash a lot and think that means that the dog's engaged. And that's why I tend to do a lot of stuff off leash, and then it becomes glaringly obvious, and then I get really frustrated. So I think that it's important to understand that engagement is built.
Yep.
And so if all else fails, play with your dog.
And it's also a habit.
Yes.
Engagement is a habit. I have to tell you, when I search with my dogs, and I try to instill this in my students, if your dog isn't engaged, don't search.
Correct.
I make a point of only searching with my dogs when they are engaged. Every time we go to that start line, I want engagement. And if the dog's not engaged, I need to fix it, walk away, fix it.
And you don't fix it at a trial.
No, you can't fix it at a trial. Walk away and fix it. You want to create the habit so that when you get to a trial, it's not a big deal. The dog's engaged. They go to the start line, they search, right? And for me, like for why, because that's a bigger issue, going back to why, right? To get the engagement with why, the minimum that I need is he has to be in the right mood. He has to feel optimistic. He has to be happy. He has to be catching his little pieces of hot dog in the staging area, right? And if I can get that, I know I have a dog. If I can't get that, we better get it really quick, right? Otherwise, he's just not going to be able to search. So, but that degree of engagement is so critical, and we don't want to wait till we get to a trial to figure out that we're not going to have an engaged dog. But if we can, in training, kind of establish that and always make a habit. It's our habit too of if the dog's not engaged, we need to stop the search, get the dog engaged, and then try it again. Or if you have a really sensitive dog, what the other thing that I do is I tell people, especially if they're just starting to search new novel areas, instead of letting your dog just kind of figure out where they are before they start searching, I can't build that into my search. I need an engaged dog at the start line. So what I'll do instead is before I set the hide, I tell them, before you set the hide, let the dog explore the area. Let them get used to the area.
Right.
This is just training. This is not trialing. This is training. Training is training. Trialing is testing. Right. So let the dog explore the area. I don't even care if they pee in it, honestly, because you're not asking them to search. I don't even care if they pee in it. Just let them explore the area.
Right.
It's different. Right. Put them away. Then set your hide. Now the dog comes out. They're like, oh, I know where I am. And you'll be more likely to get the engagement that you get at home.
Well, and you're training. Because you're training that engagement. One of the things that was fascinating of sitting and watching a hunt test, right? This is a test that they're out running a competition and a dog did something. So they'll send them out on a blind search and the dog is supposed to run until it either finds the bird or until they whistle sit it or whatever. But sometimes the dogs will pop, meaning that they'll turn and they'll sit and they'll look at the handler for guidance without a cue. That is actually a big no-no, right? In the world. And so there was actually like a minute-long pause while the handler and the judges had a conversation, because in the middle of the test, they were like, if we do something and send this dog off to go do something else, that's actually detrimental for its long-term training. So, bring it back in, and they were done. They walked off the line. And that is something that I think we have to think about as when even going into seminars, right? Of, this person is setting up something and we all get wrapped up into it. I did the same thing previously, right? Of, oh my gosh, this is a brilliant idea. I want to go and try it. I want to do, I've been doing everything wrong. We now have to start over. And so you change everything that you're doing.
Yep.
That then confuses your dog. So, at that point, you're like, no, take what that person has to say into account for your training and maybe adapt it a little bit, file it away, see how you can modify what you're currently going on. Dogs need consistency. You've already said that you've got a particular type of contract with your dog. Don't start renegotiating all sorts of things.
Yeah. When you're a clinician, there's never the expectation that somebody's going to set aside all of their training and replace it with what you're teaching. Absolutely. That's absolutely correct. Yeah. There's never that expectation.
I totally agree that I don't expect people to replace everything that they're doing as an instructor, not without guidance, right?
Right.
And it's a long-term, if you are going to switch stuff, it is a long-term type of thing. The best instructors that I have seen can come into whatever you're doing and give you some slight tweaks here and there to hopefully further you on your training journey and then give you some ideas to go from there. And it's also part of your job as a student is to walk in and understand that those clinicians may be like, you know what you're doing, the method that you're using is really not working for your dog.
Yeah.
So let's give you a couple of ideas on things that you might be able to do. And so that goes back to being coachable, right?
Okay. So as a clinician, what we're really trying to do is we're looking for, is there a fundamental piece that if that handler just worked on that, right, that is actually going to help everything else be better. We're not going to come in and go, you got to fix everything, because honestly, that's overwhelming for people. And usually if you can really focus in on one piece and you can affect that, people can make a really big, they can make a lot of progress that way. You can start to build on that. So that's what I usually try to do. Like, I don't go in and just say, hey, we're going to do all this completely differently. I just say, you know what? Like maybe even it's just their start line. I don't know, like whatever. It's just, work on one piece that's just going to make a really big difference. So that's what I try to do. I never expect them to just replace everything that they do. What I would like them to do instead is to focus on one piece and build on that.
And that's really important because our detection chains or any of the behavior chains that we're doing, they are chains and they have individual pieces that you can pull out. And, part of being aware of what's going on in your environment is going to be key for whether or not you take that particular level of advice at that time.
Yeah.
And I heard you say situational awareness earlier, Stacy, and that was a big, that right there.
I think I was talking about Paul, wasn't I?
You were,
Yes.
You were, absolutely. But
Paul has no situational awareness.
But that's a great point for advocating for your dog, because you have to have that situational awareness, because otherwise Paul would be in one of those German Shepherds' bellies.
Or powders. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so that situational awareness is one of the best pieces of advocating for your dog, because every dog, every person around you is your responsibility. And you can't take that lightly. I've had so many people do so many just bizarre things. Kids run up from behind me and hug Quinn. How does that even happen? And it's how, and you got to have eyes and ears everywhere all the time. And so that's just an important piece of all of this advocating for your dog is also being aware of everybody, because everybody becomes your responsibility.
Yeah, that's huge.
Right. And it's actually quite exhausting when you have a dog. Labs typically express themselves like, oh, you came up and hugged me, I'm going to lick you. Right.
Right.
Other dogs are not quite so much that way.
Yeah.
And you know what? You can even get a lab who's like, no, I don't like you. And so that situational awareness, you as a handler, and I see this a lot in seminars, one of the things about being a really, really good student, please be aware of what your dog is doing when you're standing and talking to other people.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay, guilty.
Well,
Checkmate slammed his toy into so many people when I was trying to talk to somebody. I'm so sorry. I'm apologizing publicly to my people that were there.
Some of that I expect, but Quinn was the only dog out. He was the dog who was working, right?
Checkmate.
Or checkmate. Yeah, Quinn would have loved it.
I wish Quinn was. He'd have loved it.
Yes, checkmate was the dog who was out, who was working. You were coaching a student through something. I'm talking about the people who are either on their way to or from working a problem, or they're out walking their dogs or whatever. And the people are having human to human interaction. Yeah. And some of the really scary dog interactions that go on because the humans aren't paying attention.
Yeah. Also along the same lines, although you don't see the dog interaction as much, I mean, with NACSW, we tend to be really like, if we're trialing an NACSW, there's a lot of rules about dog interaction. But what I have seen are people coming back from a search and they're so excited, or maybe they have a lot on their mind, even though they're not talking about the search, they start talking to people on the way back. And I've seen dogs standing on hot blacktop, like picking up a foot, like they're obviously getting hot feet, and the person's just totally oblivious to just talking to somebody else. And I've said to people before, like, your dog's feet are burning. Like, I've actually said that because like they're not aware of the fact that their dog's feet are burning, things like that.
Way to advocate.
Yeah, you really have to pay attention. Like it's kind of like that whole, you're from corporate too, so you're going to understand the phrase "cradle to grave." Like we use that for like everything. It's just a very like corporate speak, right?
Right.
It's kind of the same thing, like crate to crate. Like we can kind of think of when we're searching or we're working our dogs, whether you're searching or you're doing bite sports or whatever. It's crate to crate, right? You've got to be situationally aware of your dog when they get out of the crate, all the way until they're done, and you put them back in the crate, right? You're responsible for them.
Absolutely. And one of the things that was so a learning aha moment for me this past weekend was watching the dogs work and watching every single one of the people who had just worked their dogs took their dogs on a walk to cool them off before they put them back in their crate.
Yeah.
And I think of how many times I have taken my dog after they just ran this huge, long problem and are obviously hot with a toy in his mouth or a toy in her mouth and just said, nope, go crate up. And there was none of the process of let's let you cool down, because about 2 minutes after they're done, they're the hottest they're going to be. And then I'm going to stick in a box.
Yeah. I have heard Crystal say this so often, like even just when we were at Muscatatuck and everybody was, coming to her to get help for, help with play.
The midnight play sessions. Yes.
Yeah. The midnight play sessions. Right. And she would say, okay, go walk your dog. Like it was so obvious. Honestly, Crystal, you like advocated for like all the dogs, like they were done. They worked hard when they're playing. They're like, right. And, heaving,
and they worked hard all day. Those dogs were just phenomenal dogs.
And you're like, just go walk your dog,
and cool them off.
At a trial, there are some cases where we can't necessarily just put them back or we have to put them back in the vehicle or whatever.
Right.
if I have a situation where my dog is kind of hot, what I'll end up actually doing is I open up the van. They stand in the van. I'm not actually putting them in the box until they kind of cool off, because we don't always have the freedom to go for a walk, but I do try to cool them off before they get in. But you do need to be careful of that. However, what I have seen, even if it's just not a heat issue, is that, because again, we're not doing 45-minute searches, right?
Right.
We're doing, I think the longest search I had at Summit was 7 minutes, right? So yeah, they're hot, but they're not like so hot as like how you might be like 45 minutes on a rubble pile. However, I think it's really important to make sure that the dog doesn't search and then get thrown in the car. So on the way back is when I call it the after party. It's kind of silly name. I call it the after party. So
it's kind of like the prom after party. Yeah. Get it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That was the whole idea. It's like, and that after the search is done, you party with your dog all the way back to the car. So I'm telling my dog how amazing they are. They're getting extra cookies. We're making eye contact. We're, maybe doing nose touches. They get exactly the type of feedback that dog likes. Brava likes a little light clapping. Like, you're so amazing. You're amazing. She loves that, right? Why? He likes to go back to the van, but I'm like praising him the whole way. So that's that whole part of it. It's, even if they're not like super, super hot, need to go for a walk, you still have to take care of them emotionally. You still have to be engaged with them, and you still have to be paying attention to them. And it's not just, okay, you're done searching, put you in the box, Otherwise, honestly, that's punishing. So don't do that.
And make sure they're cooler when you put them in their box.
Yeah.
So something that I told the participants this weekend is I told them that I love their dog. And I didn't plan to say that. It just came out, and it was for real. I mean, I haven't even met their dogs yet, and I already know it. I'm going to love your dog, because that's just who I am and what I love. And I don't love all the people always. I mean, I'm being raw. I'm being honest here.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Like,
that's true.
Some people are more my style than others. But that's part of, I think, being a teacher. And fortunately, this group was a fantastic group. And I really did enjoy them all.
I was going to say, everybody's listening. They were like, I wonder if I was the one that she didn't love.
No, I was lucky
me?
with this group. But there's been a couple times.
It wasn't me. She loved me. It must have been that other person.
No, I really did enjoy it. Almost no. I enjoyed a lot of it. No, I mean, no, I am. But no, truly, I do think about that. I love all of the dogs. Yeah. And I've been to a lot of seminars where the person is very ego driven. And I know that they are great places that I can audit and learn from, but I would not want to work my dog there. And I think you have to know, and I think maybe that's a bite sports thing, where I know in nose work, you said that you don't feel like they can ruin your dog in a weekend, whereas in bite sports, I feel like they can.
There is one situation where I think it'd be very easy to ruin the dog in nose work, because I was thinking about that, because I did say that. So I started thinking about, like,
we might have said that off the mic. So
Oh, I don't know. But there is actually one situation. And I've seen this where clinicians, they like to put out the sexy hide. Like, the sexy hide in nose work is a suspended hide, right? You see this a lot where the clinician puts a suspended hide. Let's see the dog figure it out. I've seen a lot of dogs actually really, really have issues after that. So that's the type of situation where I want to read the dog, and that's a whole situational awareness and reading the dog's engagement. And if the dog is not making progress, we're out of there,
And that's also where you have the right to say no, thank you, like you said earlier. And that's important. But something that I liked too that you said earlier was you said that you taught how to say no. How did you do that?
You know what? I just basically said, when he said, I don't want, it's looking at that engagement. And I feel like if I can't get that engagement, that's a no. Because you can't force engagement.
Correct.
You can't force it.
I totally agree that you can't force the engagement. And it was so nice to have Crystal there today, because she's like, would you stop begging them to search? And it was interesting. We made some slight modifications between the first session and the second session. Well, she recorded them both, so I may show them both in my puppy group. So I have a puppy group where people are coming along on a journey of me raising dogs. And it's just interesting to see the whole let's push you to work thing. And if you don't get that engagement, you just can't do much.
Yeah.
So I think that I want to leave people with the whole concept of let's train our dogs instead of always testing our dogs. Let's think about engagement as a skill that needs to be built.
Yeah. And I'd like to build on that as my final thought, where it's before the engagement, you have to have that feeling of safety. So they have to feel confident in their surroundings, and then you can get the engagement. And if you don't have the confidence, you're not going to get the engagement.
Right.
You got to go back. You got to deal with the confidence first.
Right.
And what I'll add is to advocate for your dog. I think Stacy hit it on the head earlier, was to understand dog body language. You have to know how your dog is perceiving that context of that situation, their environment, all of that. It all comes down to, can you read your dog? So if you can read your dog, then you can advocate for your dog. But if you don't know how your dog is feeling, I mean, you're kind of just guessing. I mean, we are kind of guessing at times, but there's a lot of very factual, observable things that you can look at to understand how your dog feels. So practice that skill. It will help with everything, engagement included.
Agreed. Make sure to check out the website to sign up for the mailing list and the freebies. And I know Stacy's got some great webinars coming up. I'll be starting to offer webinars again, this probably in August. And Crystal I have her busy pretty much all summer here at the foundation offering classes and privates. So,
and I get to see you both at Get a Distraction Camp. Woo!
Yes, the beginning of August is Distraction Camp. That's going to be so exciting. So check out the website, and thank you for listening.
Canine Detection Collaborative.
We appreciate the time you spend with us. If you liked this episode, not only should you follow us so you don't miss the next one, but please also rate and review us in your favorite podcast app. For info on collaborating with us, go to k9detectioncollaborative.com. That's K9detectioncollaborative.com, where you can find our socials and pick up our latest monthly freebie. Join us again to talk training in the next episode.